Okay, I will call to order the meeting of the Finance Committee for January 11th, 2021. And I need to read why we're meeting this way. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Town of Northfield Finance Committee will be conducted by a remote participation to the greatest extent possible. A record of the proceedings will be posted on the Town of Northfield website as soon as possible after the meeting. It is being broadcast live. First of all, I want to take up the minutes. I've scheduled the Chief of Police to be in at 6:15 to give us a little time to get started. So we have minutes for November 9th, and we also have executive session minutes for November 9th. Now, if you have any changes or anything to the executive session, if you can do it without being too specific to disclose anything in them, that would be necessary. So first of all, let's take up the regular minutes. Does anybody have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes for the 9th as written.
Is there a second?
Jackson.
Motion made and seconded that we accept the minutes for November 9th as written. All in favor?
Dan Campbell says yes.
Sue
Kaczynski, yes.
Bernie?
Bernard Parada, yes.
Okay, and Dan made them. Okay, I'm yes. So it's
Jack.
unanimous. Okay.
Yes.
Then we had the executive session that same night. Is there a motion in regard to that?
I move we approve the executive session meetings for the 9th.
I second that. Dan Campbell seconds it.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we accept the executive session minutes for the 9th. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Aye. So it's unanimous then. Thank you very much. Okay, Chief Layton will be coming on.
He should be joining any minute. I have him coming in.
Okay, it's coming in for 6:15, I believe. So we'll see if he's right here, or we can.
He's been coming in for a minute or two, so I don't know if he's having trouble. We'll wait and see if he tries again.
He's doing it from home.
I don't know, but it says joining. It has for
Okay.
about 30 seconds now, so we'll see.
All right. Well, while we're waiting, we have to do our Finance Committee budget, and we have the request here and showing, same as the others do, what was approved, appropriated last year and so forth. So we have our account. It includes the wages and meetings and dues that we have to pay to the state organization. And we have had $1,300 for that. Oh, wait a minute now, we had over that, we spent over that.
That you should be able to see it now?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Good, thank you. We have to, within that are the wages that we pay to Beth. So if there is a COLA, that would increase those. So we need to raise that up a little bit, I would say. Looks like we, well, no, we were 1,300. Let me go back here, 1,300. And then for this year, we allocated 1,320 and some odd cents. That's odd, that's strange. But anyway, what do you want to do about the budget for this coming year?
I think I just did the COLA right on the 1,300 last year. That's why it looks like an odd amount.
Yeah, and that was, when I say that, that's just the wages. The whole account was $1,554. And then, but then we've got, let's see,
So let me ask you this, as far as doing it, has she gotten a raise or has it just been the COLA?
just the COLA. Because this should be the same as what any other secretaries get, except that now that's all vested, I think, in one person probably, except for Board of Health that has one. So it should be the same wages, right, Andrea?
I just say I do get my step increase and COLA.
Okay, be step
But that's
increase.
well, I mean, that's for the assessor's job. How about for?
No, for this position I do.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yep.
Just curious.
Okay, yeah, steps would, because she's been with us quite a while.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that for you.
Okay, thanks.
So it's that on 1575, something or other.
Right, so once you determine what your COLA is, I will adjust it in everybody's budget.
Yes, okay, that's fine then. So actually, I don't think there's a reason for any change other than the COLA. Am I missing something?
Unless you're thinking the reserve fund needs to be tweaked one way or another.
We'll get to that next.
Okay.
Yeah, we have two items. Then, does someone want to make a motion that we level fund except for a COLA into that account?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Dan Campbell seconds.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, unanimous then. All right, next, Dan mentioned the reserve fund. We've had 45,000, I believe, in the reserve fund for other years. What's your pleasure this year?
I think that's worked out pretty well.
Seems to. We've run close, but we haven't gone in the red. Thinking of the same amount then?
I make a motion that the reserve fund remains at $45,000.
I, Bernie Parada, second that motion.
Is there any discussion? Andrea, you have any comment about it?
Always hard to know. I mean, you can look at the fact that you've already expended half of it for this year, but you may not touch it again till the end of the year now, so.
You never know what circumstances. Then all in favor of the motion to keep it the same at 45,000?
Dan Campbell says yes.
Bernie Parada says yes.
Jack?
Jack says yes.
Sue?
Yes.
And I'll say yes. So it's unanimous that we level fund both of our accounts then. Thank you. Has the chief come on yet?
Yes.
All right. Don't see him. Oh, I see his name, that's all. Are you remaining anonymous, Rob?
But I'm trying to get the video to work.
There he is.
Okay.
You're there.
There you are. All set?
Should be able to.
Rob, you're on candid camera.
Yes.
Here we are. I think I did it. You see
Yeah,
me
we
now?
can see you, we can hear you.
Okay.
All right, so you know everybody's got a copy of his budget here, and you know the routine. We want an explanation for your increases, and I can see they're all pretty much tied to wages because it's Quinn bill and it's holiday pay, that sort of thing. So do you want to explain start out at the top of the,
Well, can I just say one thing before he starts?
Sure.
In order to do his budget, I did put in his COLA because there's a contracted wage of 1.7%. So unless you're going to go higher than that, which I will up his budget, that is the minimum. So I went ahead and put that in so you could see it on this particular budget. Since you hadn't voted COLA yet, if you do that tonight, I will be able to do that for subsequent budgets and you will see the impact. But you wouldn't have seen anything tonight if I hadn't just made an assumption.
right. I knew that it was a contractual obligation, but I wasn't sure of the amount, so that's good, you put it in. Okay. All right, Rob, you want to go ahead?
Sure. So as far as the wages and salaries, I'm not adding any additional positions. Everything is the same as it's been. This would include the three police officers as well as a school resource officer. That's what this budget would support. So as Andrea stated, the increases are not only step raises, but also the contractual COLA that is included. This would support everything from the shifts every week to vacation time, part-time coverage, special events such as Halloween, the Memorial Day Parade, call-outs, court time, everything that the budget has included since I've been chief. So nothing changes as far as manpower. We're hoping, I've been in contact with the superintendent, and starting this coming fall, we will have a full-time school resource officer back at the school, and we will have that additional coverage up there as well. So
I'm glad to see that happen. Apparently it was unanimous by the school committee this time too. Good. Now this shows, and I think this all relates to the SRO, this shows an increase in the wage account of $40,525.
And I think I can take credit for that as well. I knew that the SRO was a 50% covered position. So last year I only budgeted at 50%. However, apparently, unbeknownst to me, the town budgets the full amount and then gets reimbursed the 50% from the school, which goes into the general fund. So although this looks like a huge jump, it really will be 50% reimbursed to the town.
Yes, we had kept that in the budget, even though
yes,
there was a lapse there of a period of time when we didn't have an SRO,
but I had only funded it at 50% last year because I didn't understand that mechanism.
Yeah. So does anybody have any question about that? That's why that increase shows in that last column.
I just had a question. When school is in virtual mode or in the summer, does this FRO work for the town?
yes. So during the summer months, that school resource officer would then become a patrolman for the department. I would schedule him sort of on a utility shift where if, for instance, somebody was taking a vacation time during the summer, that position would fill in there. So we wouldn't have to use overtime or, we would use part-time officers, but the school resource officer would be absorbed back into the department, and we would use him as a patrolman. As far as during the school year, his post would be at the high school. It would be essentially a Monday through Friday position. And of course, if he had any special events or there was any meetings that he would have to attend relative to anything going on at the school, he would be responsible for that time as well.
Okay, thanks.
And because you don't expect they'll be going back to having on duty over there until the fall, probably, is that right?
Right now, what we did is I worked it out with the superintendent that we have a hybrid SRO position. So I have a reserve officer who is essentially our school resource officer. And because the school's been doing remote learning and we weren't really sure how this year was going to work, he hasn't spent a whole lot of time up at the high school because of the COVID-19 issues. So if they end up going back to school sometime this spring, that reserve officer will fill in for the rest of the year. But I've spoken with the superintendent, and we are going to move forward with assigning a Northfield officer as the school resource officer, and hopefully we will have somebody in line by this spring to be put in place for this coming September.
Okay, that's good. So this is going to be a person that won't need any special training right now, apparently, because of the experience.
You mean as far as our hybrid SRO, or
Yeah.
yeah? So right now it's just a reserve officer who's going to take on those responsibilities
Right.
if the high school does go back to regular classes. But the full-time position that we're looking at for the fall, there will be some additional training that will have to take place once we line that position up to have him back in the schools.
Okay, all right. Then the other, let's see, there's a little increase, $250 for police training.
And I think that was all relative to the COLA and the step raises. We would have to, that went up a little bit because the salaries went up.
Yeah.
But that account covers, it's a wage account that covers officers who are out for training, so it's really all wage related.
Okay, yes. And then holiday pay is wage related too, and then the Quinn bill, that's wage related,
Yes.
and that's it. So the total increase is about 42,400 as is shown there. Anybody have any other questions they want to ask him while he's here?
Just to clarify, the increase in personnel, 40,000, the bulk of that will go back into the general fund?
Right. So half of the salary for the school resource officer is paid back by the district to the town.
Okay, so 20,000 plus will go back to the general fund.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
That'll help our free cash another year, I would think. So, okay, that's good on that, Rob. Thank you. Now, I've also got your capital account, and you're not asking for anything for fiscal 22.
Yeah, the only thing, there was a slight increase, again, it was due to the union contract of an increase in police uniforms and equipment. But other than that, it's pretty much level funded.
Okay, did you get the vehicle yet, the hybrid? Has it
Nope.
come yet?
We should be hearing something from MHQ by the end of the week.
Oh,
It's already being built, and everything's been transferred, so it's just a matter of making sure everything's working right and getting a time to go down and pick it up.
good. Okay. I think, you've had a capital plan right along anyway, telling us what years you needed replacements and that sort of thing, and that's all spelled out here. Does everybody have that 10-year capital plan that the police department has? And are there any questions on that? Andrea, anything you want to comment on? Everything's pretty straightforward.
No, like I said, the COLA is in there, so unless you go above a 1.7, this is actually the budget you're looking at unless something were to change.
Yeah. Okay. No further questions. I think we're all set. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Aye.
All right. Then the COLA's come up here, so this is a good time. I've got it right on the agenda anyway, because instead of waiting till toward the end of our deliberations, I thought it's a good idea, because as Andrea said, she can apply the COLA to all the budgets that contain any wages or anything before we get to discussing them. So I thought it was a good time to do it. As I had mentioned some time ago, we have traditionally followed what the federal government gave to the Social Security beneficiaries. And that.
Well, before you start though, I'm going to leave this conversation because I could be involved in it. So I will leave because it does affect me, and whatever you guys come up with, that'd be okay. So I'm gonna, I'll come back.
Yeah, be about 2 or 3 minutes probably, that's all.
Right.
Okay, Dan, thank you.
Yep.
So the COLA that the Social Security recipients got this year was 1.3. So that's less than you said 1.7 is in the police contract.
Correct.
So that would be lower than that. So what's the feeling of the members here?
Well, I would like to see 1.7 across the board. It's not that much difference, and it's makes everybody the same.
Yeah.
I have no problem with Jack's suggestion. I think fairness, and this prevents any type of resentment or complaints about disparate compensation. I agree with Jack. 1.7% would be reasonable.
That's just going up 0.4% over what I'm talking about, yeah. Because otherwise you're going to get one department getting more because they have a labor contract. Any other thoughts on it? Do you want to make that a motion, Jack?
Sure, I would move the COLA for fiscal year 22 be 1.7%.
Is there
I,
a
Bernie
second?
Paradas, second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion? All right. All in favor? Bernie and Jack have made the motion, so you're supporting it, I would say.
Jack, yes.
Yep.
Sue?
Sue Kaczynski says yes.
And I'll say yes. So that's 4 people out of the 6. And Dan would be abstaining and Tony's not here. So that gives you what you need to move forward on the rest of them. Okay.
Yes, and put that in the paperwork.
All right. Very good. Thank you very much. That's taken care of at 1.7. Now, I thought we'd have Andrea kind of give us an update on things. She's communicated to me about the free cash, and she can tell the rest of you about that and what's happening. And
I don't have a number for you yet. We're still working on it. It's being submitted. There's a couple of little things that had to be tweaked by the accountants, just some of the cleanup still from fiscal 19 into 20. They're going through with a pretty fine tooth comb. We're trying to make sure that we have it, we have it done so that, because 21 is going to be fine now that everything's on the new schedule, but our accountants that we got on board are very good, and they've really been going after this. So there were just a couple of little things that we spotted when we went to reconcile for the end of the year, and they're cleaning it up, but I don't think there's going to be any problems. It's just so, you know, it just takes time. They're going through it with a fine tooth comb. I've got our accountant plus the assistant who's working with him, and he's like a pit bull. He's very good, and he really drills down into things, and I really appreciate it because it's been a while since I've been really confident in what we're going to end up with. But I think this one is going to be is really going to be a good clearing of the decks. But
so you don't anticipate that there's going to be anything in our cherry sheets or anything on this? It'll be.
I don't. I mean, I'm sure they'll point out anything on free cash. We do have a couple little things that we had to settle up that will hit our free cash a little bit.
Dan can come back anytime.
Yeah, I can also invite him back. Let me just invite Dan.
Okay, sorry.
Then he will know.
This is no for all of us.
And I will send it to him, and hopefully he will take the hint that he's being invited back into the meeting.
Okay.
When he gets that. So there's been a couple of things, you know, we did have to settle some things out with a pilot that we had where we had to, you know, use some money to pay back. We were holding some funds, and that got settled out. And so there'll be a few little things, but once I get the number, I think I'll be able to, you know, clearly explain that. I don't anticipate anything strange in the free cash number at this time, but it's very hard for me to anticipate where we're going to sit. You know, I did check with Tom. Chapter 90 was filed up until the point of June last year, you know, the Holton Culvert project. So we're not looking at anything big being held out there. So, you know, it's kind of a wait and see kind of game to see what gets found. But hopefully everything will be fine.
Okay. Any questions? Anybody just jump in?
Let me admit him in.
Okay.
I just saw Dan.
Oh.
Coming back.
Okay, Dan's back. All right.
Did you get my invitation, Dan?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. Andrea was just talking about when we're going to hear from free cash and the status of it.
And we're still working on it a little. I can fill Dan in tomorrow about that at work.
Okay.
Have any questions?
I
have requested the stabilization balance from Melissa, so I will bring that to you for the next meeting. And the other thing I want you to try to remember, and this would be for specific purposes, but you're still sitting on that cell tower revenue that can be used for anything you could borrow for. So before you start discussing your capital requests, now again, you don't have to use this. You could continue to hold that money. Obviously, a large capital project such as a building is something you could apply this to, but it is an available revenue source to you, and it's $472,221.80, and probably some interest at this point. So I would get the new balance on that.
It's held in a separate account, isn't it?
Right, we have to because it has some restrictions on how it can be expended. It's fairly broad. I mean, anything that's considered a large capital expenditure. So anything you might have to borrow for, that's the restriction. Could be a large truck, could be a piece of property, could be a building, anything like that it can be used for. So we have to just make sure that per law that we're careful with. But it is a revenue source for you to keep in mind.
Sure.
For the future or for now. I mean, it's a potential revenue source.
Yes, okay.
And I'll get your current stabilization balance. It'll basically be updated with interest and all that. So
okay. And all the members have the capital requests that Andrea sent us a while back, and then the fire department one came in today looking for a replacement vehicle.
Or repair, yeah.
And So I think we've got, do you think now, Andrea, that we have all the capital requests?
I think so. I mean, I counted on it. I mean, all the departments were queried and everybody pretty much got their requests in. I don't anticipate anything at this point coming in from any other department.
Okay, we've got highway and assessors and council on aging and,
Town hall, I put some in, all for your consideration.
yeah, I'm concerned about that stove. Of course, the senior center is not open for this
But
epidemic.
they do use it now. They use it
do.
even now.
Is this going to be safe until we're talking about July 1st?
It is. What they do is they turn it off and relight it, and it's problematic because you have to, in order to ignite the pilot of the oven, you have to actually crawl under the oven. It's
Yeah.
underneath. So it's a pain, but they do it for safety reasons. And, but the pilot gets blown out a lot, so we just
Yeah.
turned off.
Found it better to just shut it
Just
off.
for your information, I just happened to turn on the TV as far as doing that and can't hear sound off the TV. So I don't know if that's an issue if it's an issue with me, it's probably gonna be an issue with other people, so.
Tyler, did you hear that?
You guys can keep talking. He heard.
There's no volume that I can see, and I turn my volume up,
Yeah?
so I,
TV.
He's checking it.
off the TV, off my TV, yeah.
Oh, I don't know, did Jack, excuse me, Tyler,
I figured
hear
it'd
that?
be going out.
I don't know. Anybody,
If
Sue,
nobody's called in as far as doing that, I don't think too many people are watching this right now.
Sue, is anybody there that can watch it on at your house?
Sure thing, hold on.
Yeah,
How about now?
Dave?
Someone has to speak so that it can test this volume.
yeah.
Dave, can you turn the
Oh.
Northfield station on to see if it's got volume?
That's good, okay. He'll see if there's anything
Volume
there.
on now? Yeah.
Somebody, no?
He's,
Um,
Dan has to be careful, he can get back feed.
Yeah.
um,
And you, by the way, you're a little delayed, so that's all right.
I think that's always the case.
yeah, it's usually gonna be about 15 seconds. But
Is
still
it?
nothing.
No.
You can hear it on the Facebook Live if that's any consolation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just the TV sound.
Just, coming over, channel 17 or whatever it is.
channel 17, Dave?
No.
No. No
Hey,
No volume.
I'm gonna test something out and turn my mic off.
You want us to hold for a minute?
You guys can hold or go ahead and keep going.
Okay, all right. So, what I thought we'd do was be, as these different departments that have put in for requests, capital requests, as they come in about their budgets, we can talk about their capital requests. So the stove, okay, you're not concerned then that we need to do anything before July 1st?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, they are using it to do some meals, but I think we're probably okay until.
Yeah, it's not like it's every day either, probably.
No, on the weekend, they do some meals for the
Yeah.
Fridays or every other Friday.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's see what else. Want to give us an update on the Shell Bridge project? You were doing the plan that they needed and so forth.
Right, I'm still working on the right-of-way. We have met with one of the abutters, and I just spoke with another abutter. Bee doesn't even know this, and she's working on it with me. I just spoke with another abutter today, and I'm gonna send him some paperwork via email, and then we're gonna set up a time to talk with him, and then I have the third abutter that I'm working to contact. That is the resident abutters that are right nearby. I have been
Okay,
watching.
big voice.
That sound. I've been watching a lot of the information go through Mass DOT and our lawyers on on right-of-way and ownership issues. And interestingly enough, they have found some old, which I read today, they found some old data about the ownership of the bridge and some acts that actually allowed the town to borrow to build the bridge. So they finally feel pretty confident that the town actually owns the bridge. And so they also did right-of-way under, since it's an the river, it appears the state owns the right-of-way under the bridge. So they're continuing to work on those pieces. As soon we're just going to continue on our pieces. I'm just acquainting the abutters with the project as Mass DOT has considered the design right now. And then when they are further in their process to the 75 or 100%, we have actual final numbers as to impact. I'll have to go back to the abutters, and then we'll have to talk about what the actual easements are. Oh, we did meet with the Moody Center. I forgot to mention that, who is a large abutter on one portion of the project. So we've met with the two abutters on the west side, and I'm now going to be sending some information to the first of the two abutters on the east side, and continuing along with that. And hopefully everybody will be at least familiar with the project as it is currently envisioned, and then we will continue to work on the final pieces of the right-of-way as they give us, if everyone's on board and there's no huge abutter concern, we're giving them an opportunity to ask questions, we will continue on with the right-of-way pieces in terms of actual design and final impact. And then the actual, processing of documents for right-of-way, easement granting will have to be generated and signed.
When is it they wanted to get started?
Well, they want to bid the project in August.
Okay.
So it seems like a long way off, but it's a lot of work to get there.
Yeah. And any questions anybody has?
Just one correction. This is B. We met with the two parties on the east side, not the west side.
Oh, sorry, the east side. You're right. The east side, not the west side. Yeah. I've now reached out to one of the west side parties, and we'll be reaching and the other one.
Yeah. And the 75% design for Mass DOT is targeted. When I spoke to them in late December, they were targeting the end of January, early February. So we're really closing in on a key milestone here for the project.
Will this require an EIR or ENF?
An EIR?
An environmental.
They've got so much environmental and impact work to do and all the permitting, and that will all be on them. The town is not required.
I'm just thinking of the lag time. If they haven't done anything yet, it's never going to get bid in August.
Well, they've done a lot of work out there.
But they haven't submitted anything.
They haven't what?
They haven't submitted the EIR, ENF, whatever they require.
Oh, I don't know. We don't really have much to do with that. I mean, we know that there have been people in the river taking measurements. We know they're marking trees. They're doing surveying. I mean, they may very well have submitted those.
I think we'll learn more at the end of the month, beginning of February, is my guess. The Section 106 kicked off the end of December.
What did that involve?
The Section 106 has to do with, this is me speaking as a historical commission person. The Section 106 has to do with the archaeological and cultural resource survey. And my impression, based on that and other conversations, is that they're really trying to get everything organized and lined up for this 75% design milestone at the end of January or beginning of February. So I think we'll learn more, Jack, in the coming weeks.
Well, that's definitely a question to ask them.
Okay.
The status of the EIR or ENF.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. You mentioned something, Andrea, that the town does own the bridge.
Yes.
It's not covered as far as I'm sure. I know. Right?
There was some question about that in the sense that nobody could establish whether that was true or not. but they went back to records,
Yeah. Well, Jack, I don't think there's been a question for what we own it, right?
No,
No, but
it's,
they needed to establish it.
situation all along.
Yeah.
The Acts of
But
1901.
At the end, the Department of Conservation will own it, not the town.
Correct.
The insurance coverage is what I was referring to.
We
Doesn't
won't own it
exist.
after the construction.
We don't have any on it now, as far as I know.
Lois, don't bring that up.
Okay.
No, it's not.
I hesitated.
It's not really an issue. We are covered by a municipal insurance, and any town property like that would be covered.
Okay, all right, enough on that, I guess. Anything else that you want to give us an update on, Andrea, that you think of that I didn't list?
If anybody can think of anything they want to know about at this point. I've okayed the FEMA piece, so we will be getting some money there, and I am working on the CARES Act submission, which should be giving us the balance of everything we're owed. They have extended, in case people didn't realize it, they have extended the CARES Act. The federal government finally did that. It was one of the things that was signed just at the end of last year as part of the whole big bill, because as of December 31st, 2020, the CARES Act money was supposed to end. They have extended that till 2021, December now, 2021, which is good for the town of Northfield because we have actually not expended all of our CARES Act funding. So it was good for us in the sense that should we need anything else or should more come up, we actually do have some funds available. Some communities have spent all their funds. We have not done so, which gives us some flexibility now that we have, that it has been extended. But we will be receiving a FEMA reimbursement, and then the rest of it I'm putting in for the CARES Act. So it's still my hope that pretty much everything that we've expended should be covered. I will know shortly. If it isn't, it'll be fairly minor at this point. Most of the big expenditures, including the cardiac monitor, have been covered by FEMA.
That's what I was going to mention, the cardiac monitor, that's to the EMS. That can possibly come under that then, so that...
FEMA is going to be covering 75%. I will put in for the rest of the 25% under the CARES Act.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you voted in June out of the enterprise fund as a backup to cover the purchase, but it looks like it will be unnecessary.
Good. Any further, does anybody else have anything they want to discuss or ask about it? Okay. On communications, we received balances as of partway through December, and then we've got another one now for the end of December, and that was sent out. Everybody should have that. Any concerns with any amounts there?
I was just concerned that highways, bridges and rails and oil and stoning both are almost all expended with 6 months left to go. I just want to give you the benefit of past experience. If there was any end of year transfers for a highway department, they usually came out of those accounts, and if they're all gone, it's going to be hard to find the money.
Looks like here I have highway, bridges and rails. If I go with the one account, Public Works, it was budgeted at 164,300 and it's 71,000 left. So they've spent 93,000. Is that the account you're talking about? The oil and stone, you're correct. Looks like there was a $100,000 budget and they spent 94. I think that was a particular project that he was doing.
What I was given was highways and bridges and rails was budgeted 225,000
Yeah, you have a combination budget.
and 211 has been spent, leaving 13,000.
I have to find the one.
That's what I have, yeah.
It's different than the one I get. Okay, general government.
just be aware, I hope the highway department stays busy for the next 6 months. And also, again, most every year, if there's end of year transfers, they came out of those two line items.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, see now, oil and stone is 94% spent
Mhm.
as well.
Yes, that one I have too, that it's 94% spent, but it's interesting that I have a different total. I wonder what's in that total. The accounts you guys get look slightly different. I have the further breakdown, more of a breakdown than you get. So I was just trying to compare. So your number doesn't exactly, your number's a composite of several of my numbers, so I'm trying to put together here what.
We got something that was mid-December for the ending.
Yep.
Now this one is 12/31.
Right.
We should all have the same ending date on these. Good point, Jack. And while we're at it, if anybody's looked ahead at the capital expenditures the highway wants for this coming year, it's well over 600,000. And one of them is for doing the work on Old Wendell Road. And I think that's the connecting part we call it over the ledges, that has never been done. Am I right, Jack? Did you see that?
Well, I didn't do my homework on those capital expenditures.
Okay, all right,
But that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
And I saw a transfer in the paper recently of some property up there, and I think there were people that bought lots up there thinking they were going to get the town to fix up the road so they could. One of them at one time was going to bring in a modular home, and there's no way they were going to get that in there. And
Well, the lots down the lower end.
It is an accepted road.
yes,
I think it's a county road, or was a county road. So there are certain obligations
yeah,
the town faces regarding that. Something to be aware of.
yes, I think so. If it's going to be developed, then, what about, I didn't look up about Chapter 90 money. Would that, because it's all within this town, the two connecting roads, does that make a difference on the Chapter 90 availability?
Well, I'm not sure, but isn't it, since it's an old county road, it's Chapter 90 eligible?
Oh, that might be.
Anything the town maintains is Chapter 90 eligible, and if it's considered maintained or maintainable, yes. The
So
town
if it's
gets
not
Chapter 90 for it.
If it's not maintained, it's not eligible. Is that what you're saying?
Right, but it depends on whether they just considered the whole road. I don't know what, you'd have to ask Chapter 90, you'd have to look at what they do. Usually there's a list of roads. I don't know if they have a cutoff on that one. You'd have to find out exactly what they're measuring. If they consider that whole road the road and they're measuring from beginning to end as Chapter 90 eligibility, you may be receiving Chapter 90 funding for it already.
I was,
I just don't know for sure. I'd have to find out from Chapter 90.
I wondered if that had been considered when he's asking for over 200,000 more.
Chapter 90 won't, you'd have to take money out of Chapter 90 to do it. It's not enough. Chapter 90 isn't enough to do any one road.
Yeah, then reimbursement from that. So, okay, that's something that'll be coming up then. The next communication that we have is the invitation to participate in this ad hoc committee that Andrea will explain what it's about.
Apparently there was this is sort of piggybacking on a prior committee. You had a campus collaborative committee. It's also something that's in the town's master plan and sort of has been brought about by various projects that have been happening now with the Moody Center. So there's been some expression that maybe a collaborative committee should be formed to better communicate between the town and what's happening on campus, as well as the Moody Center. This is an ad hoc committee, so it actually reports to the select board as an advisory committee, but the idea is to actually promote communications with multiple boards, and therefore the invitation would be extended to a bunch of different boards to each send someone, as well as to a number of members of the public, in the hope that people could take that information back to the board and also be a resource on the collaborative committee regarding their areas of expertise. So the committee is suggested, and the invitations have been issued, for a select board member, a planning board member, and a finance committee member. And then right now they're taking applications from the public on the committee forms for up to 3 members of residents. And I have issued the invitation to both the Moody Center and the college, both of whom have accepted. Moody Center has already basically told me who their 2 representatives are going to be, and the college is getting back to me. I know who one of them probably is, for their representatives on this committee. So it looks like it's a committee that is going to form, and the hope is that it will be an advisory group that will allow communication between all the various parties and entities, and keep everybody up on what's going on, and also be an avenue for more regular communication and planning. There's a host of projects that we're going to be doing that affect them, and obviously, I'm sure you've all heard, a host of projects they're going to be doing that affect the town as well. So it seemed like a good time to try to put together a more smooth and robust communication between all the parties.
It was on that prior one.
I don't know.
It was.
I remember.
Yeah.
It was a while ago.
Yeah, it was when the campus closed. I didn't go on it at first.
Right, it was NMH mostly. It wasn't any of the current entities.
Went on, Reverend Alex Stewart chaired it the whole time it existed, but yeah, there different people would seem like they came and went on it, and a lot of alums from NMH were on it at that time, and just a lot of discussion about what was taking place. That I don't recall any really specific action that was taken by it. But
right, this committee doesn't really have any authority to take action. That's the whole reason it's supposed to be advisory. And then, so if anybody needed anything from the planning board or the finance committee, the select board, they should go to those respective entities. This board is not meant to substitute for that level of communication.
I'm concerned that it would seem to disenfranchise one member of the planning board if he serves on that. Is there a conflict of interest when that person on the planning board is voting on whether they get allowed their permits or not?
I can't see how. I mean, in fact, they should be a conduit back to their board to help fill in the details and discuss things or ask questions. And on the other end, to advise them, any entity on the board, to take things to the planning board. I don't see how it would be a conflict of interest. The board itself shouldn't be voting on anything. The collaborative committee won't be voting on anything.
No.
It's not going to take any official actions.
No, the planning board would be though.
Right. So if there's anything to do with the planning board, it would go to the planning board, and it would be expected to go to the planning board. This is just supposed to be a communications mechanism more than anything, and allow for parties to know things, get questions, and advise each other prior to maybe any surprises.
The rest
Or
of
just
it
keep
has
the
to
channels
happen.
open, communications open.
Okay.
I
Anybody
don't
else?
know how it will operate yet. The board would have to meet and decide if they want to meet monthly or as needed. I think that's something the committee is going to have to structure itself with. That's
Nobody has any ideas on the committee?
I just have a suggestion. I think it may be more appropriate, especially for any development issues, that somebody from the Board of Assessors would be more applicable to this type of situation than a member of the Finance Committee. Again, I just don't really see how this really directly involves or affects the finance committee and its operations. I just think that probably Board of Assessors would be a more appropriate venue to add to that ad hoc committee.
Bernie, I agree with you 100%. The finance committee has no active role in these issues. But the Board of Assessors, whatever work is happening, they're going to determine whether it's tax exempt or not. And I think they'd be more useful and relevant to what's going on.
And the other thing too, this sort of committee would involve, obviously with residents and could have political implications. Our finance committee has always been tried to to deal with a very narrow mission, which is finances, and to try to basically stay away from political issues. So I think this is not an area for the purview of our committee.
I agree with you.
Dan?
No, I agree with Bernie as far as doing that. We should, we don't want to get into politics. We basically look at the budget. We recommend what's in the budget as far as doing that. We do that when we get all the information in. And I would much rather have somebody come to us and explain it than us being in there, because we have no interest in that.
Right.
Other than, how it would affect the tax rate or how it would affect the taxes in the town. And again, we don't want to get involved in that.
Sue?
I agree with all of you that it's not our area. I think you should go to the assessors or somebody. We have no input for this.
Okay.
Are they bringing any businesses? Are they reaching out to business owners in the town too? Because they would have a vested interest in what's going on.
I'm hoping that somebody maybe from Nataba will express an interest in joining.
Someone from what now?
Nataba, the Business Association?
Yes. And have you contacted them, or is that?
An email, but I don't know how they feel. That's up to them if they want to serve. But I agree with you. I think that someone from the business community is a good choice.
That would be Steve Sawyer, I guess. Is the general feeling then that we decline the invitation to participate?
I think we should decline this politely.
Want to make a motion to that effect so we can take action?
I make a motion that the Finance Committee politely refuses to be members of this ad hoc committee.
Can I add to that motion maybe and encourage a member from the Board of Assessors to be a member?
That's a good addition, Jack.
Well, I'll bring it back to the select board and they can certainly do that. It's really their ad hoc committee, so they can certainly say, Finance Committee feels it should be Board of Assessors, so let's reach out to them. So they can do that.
Okay, I'll put this to a vote if everybody's ready to vote. Any further discussion first? No. All in favor of declining the invitation?
Yes. Sorry, Dan.
Yes. And in case it wasn't seconded, Jack seconds.
Okay.
With an amendment.
Thank you. So Bernie and Jack and Dan and Sue?
I agree.
Okay, and I will, so it's unanimous then. Thank you, Andrea.
Okay.
All right. Then I'm going to talk about reports of other meetings attended. It's Zoom, week before last, couple weeks ago, I'll say. Anyway, Pioneer Valley has started their budget subcommittee meetings, and they're doing it via Zoom, and they've included finance committee chairs, and the four of us were in on it last time, and they gave us, if we wanted to speak or anything like that, they were willing to hear us I didn't have anything to say. It was, Bernardston asked about moving the sixth grade. They are talking of moving the sixth grades over to Pioneer. So her comment was she was not opposed to it, but didn't think it was the appropriate time. But I think because they're talking budget at this time, I don't think they thought it was appropriate to discuss that, whatever, at this time. But there are changes that will accompany that, involving finance too. So then they were supposed to meet again. They gave us the schedule, and they were supposed to meet again this past week. And then I wrote and said I haven't seen the agenda or whatever. So they said, oh, the meeting had been canceled, but there is another one this week, Thursday. So I will get in on it as well for the Zoom meeting. But until they go through their whole series of meetings on the budget, there isn't much to tell about it at this point. But I will keep you posted as to what's going on. And then the other one was that last week, Thursday, I guess it was, Andrea contacted me and said that the chief of the EMS wanted to meet with her and me to just come up with some ideas that he might have about the future of his service. And so we did meet. I said that I could not speak for the finance committee. It was not, appropriate, and that he should be transparent in everything he does, that sort of thing. Do you want to add anything, Andrea, to that? He was talking about the future. He will be going before the select board tomorrow night to discuss with them what his plans are. I think he wants to raise the hourly rate for the paramedics, because as we all know, it's very difficult to just get people on a voluntary basis. And so I think the idea, if he could pay more per hour, he might be able to get somebody that would work exclusively for Northfield. Was that it?
Well, last year you voted a full-time permanent position.
Yeah.
Which we're now working on filling. We have the ad out. We, based on all sorts of things, it just didn't get done sooner. As you can imagine, everything's been kind of crazy. So that position he is working on, we are working on. And the other piece that we're working, he came to me and said that he really needs to have an adjustment in pay. It's become more evident than ever. And he has a list of towns and the rates of pay, and Northfield is significantly under many of them, including some much smaller communities, in terms of what they're paying paramedics. Just to staff what he's staffing now. He's not even necessarily talking any additional staff. What he did send, and what we'll probably send out to you prior to his meeting with you, is he's really stopped and thought about the mission as he sees it, as he was instructed to see it from the town when the town decided to go with a separate EMS service, and the kind of coverage that it is his understanding that the town wants, and based on the funding level he's at, and he's worked very hard to try and keep that under any real increase, to be able to do this without any increase in what he's asking from the town. And we had a pretty serious discussion, and I think he wanted to reach out to Lois just so that it didn't come as a surprise in general to anyone on the finance committee, and then knew that she would share it, and he will certainly speak to it when he comes in before his meeting with the select board. He's been asked to serve a part of Irving for an assessment because they are unhappy with their service from their current provider, who actually won't guarantee them service in a lot of ways. And so he's going to go before the select board and talk about that agreement, what that might look like, and what that amount of money would be. It would not change his staffing model per se, because he's already covering much of the shifts. It's not a huge increase. It's in terms of additional service. It's a smaller portion. He's got a lot of paperwork, which I will forward to you, that shows exactly financially what they're serving, the calls they're doing, the amount of money they're taking in, and how having other towns as part of the service actually pays a fairly decent portion of the cost of running the service. So I'll let him speak to that when he does. He obviously knows the finances way better than I do. I mean, we talk and I have reviewed it, and Lois has seen some of the numbers, and we can certainly we'll send those reports out.
I think we did send some of them out, didn't we?
I don't know if everybody, you got the email stuff?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what he wanted to send out so people could start seeing it and digesting it. There's a lot of different moving pieces to it, just in terms of numbers, and it's when he speaks to it, it's a little bit easier to understand what it all means. But anyway, so he's got a budget proposal that he'll bring to the board when he comes to speak on his budget, and but he is going to meet with the select board tomorrow about the possibility of serving part of Irving. They have contacted and requested the service from Northfield. He is already doing some.
It's the Millis Falls section of
The
Irving.
Millis Falls section of Irving, yes.
Yeah.
The other portion is covered by Orange,
Yes.
for whom they pay an assessment, so they are proposing an assessment for the Millis Falls section. To pay
15,000.
Pay an amount, yes.
And the 3 sections to Irving, and I think Orange would keep the other 2.
Yes, no, there's no proposal to switch
No.
that service at this time. It's the section that Orange is not serving and that Irving is left to have serve. And this is not first responder. This is only ambulance. So they wouldn't be going there for every call. It's not first responder service. It's ambulance service only.
Are the taxpayers going to be asked to subsidize this service, Irving, like they're subsidizing service to Bernardston?
Well, there's a whole big discussion on this, and you need to look at the charts. Without Bernardston, actually, the town of Northfield would have to raise the amount they would have to charge the residents of Northfield, or we would have to cut service. So it is actually his argument that you are not subsidizing Bernardston, they're actually subsidizing you.
I would.
I mean, you can cut the service and you can cut the 40,000 to Northfield, but then you will have to have a first responder service. So we would have to put some money back into the budget and have a first responder service. We don't currently have that coverage from our fire department. So you would have to pay for a first response service, even if we eliminated the ambulance department.
Can we get a more detailed analysis of this?
There's a spreadsheet.
The spreadsheet does not show that.
The spreadsheet shows exactly how many calls and what each call, what your,
The spreadsheet shows there's the same amount of calls to Bernardston as Northfield, essentially.
yes.
And the town of Bernardston does not contribute 1 dime. Now, it's not the town, it's the insurance carriers or these patients who pay for the service, not the town of Bernardston. The town of Northfield completely shoulders the burden of many of the costs without a dime being paid by Bernardston. If we continue to provide service to Bernardston, then Bernardston should step up to the plate to assist in covering some of the capital expenditures, some of the operational costs, instead of asking the Northfield taxpayers to pay a subsidy now, which we're looking into a 3rd year of a subsidy to pay for that. Plus, non-collectibles are also covered by Northfield's EMS Enterprise Fund for Bernardston. So my thing is, I don't want to hear Bernardston pays for it. They do not. Their residents pay for it. The community, the town itself does not. And that's what we would like to address, because this should be fair to the taxpayers of this community, plus the fact that we're responding to almost equal calls to Bernardston, equal to what we have here for patient calls in Northfield. It's clear Bernardston needs to step up to the plate and assist Northfield instead of us subsidizing that service to their community.
Why is the Board of Selectmen not investigating the South County model, which is all the there, and the taxpayers of one town are not subsidizing the other towns?
Well, you have to remember that if we do the South County model, that then you're talking about some pretty high assessments to Northfield.
Well,
It'd be more than 40,000, let's put it that way. The small town of Whately, which is half the size, is paying almost 3 times what Northfield is currently paying in the South County model. So I don't think that the model is necessarily, you have to look at the whole picture here. The South County model is 24/7 model staffed with paramedics. So if you want to go to that level of service, you're talking a much more expensive system than we're running now. So
that spreadsheet you submitted does not show it's beneficial for the Northfield taxpayers to subsidize service for free to other towns. I just don't get it.
well, there's a couple things. You've got to take a step back for 1 second and look at what the service is. It is, you can talk about the service model. You can talk about what the service is. That is, it is his understanding that he is expected to provide, and at some point this was given his charge, and he's written a mission statement on it. I asked him to do that. Now, you can debate that and you can change that. That allows him to say that he is trying his best for the service to provide 24/7 coverage in one capacity or other. It doesn't mean somebody's sitting in the station 24/7. There's people on call. There's sometimes when nobody's in the station and they have to, actually come in. He has a model where he's staffing that station or on call or whatever for 24/7 paramedic service. That's 2 paramedics generally, although we have a COVID exception right now, but generally 2 paramedics available to take a call for the service, for anyone who calls in for whatever district they're covering. Sometimes it's even mutual aid. They go to a town that isn't Bernardston or Northfield if they get called, and they can take that call. That's the level of service that the EMS, the Northfield EMS, is attempting to provide. They feel that's their mission and that's what they've been charged with. Okay, so that's the first premise you have to understand. In order to afford that level of service, now you can change that level of service. You could say to them, no, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to change that expectation. And that's a perfectly legitimate discussion to have. But currently, that's what they think the expectation is on them. That if you pick up the phone and call, to the best of their ability, Northfield's going to send an ambulance. 24/7, 365 days a year. If you're going to pay for that level of service, there's no way the town of Northfield could do that by themselves without quadrupling, doubling what you're paying now. I mean, you have to understand that. If you just look at the staffing model and you look at the amount of money that the town is paying, let's just look at Northfield for right now. If you look at that model and you look at how the town of Northfield pays, that model is not possible without probably $100,000 or more a year from the town of Northfield. So,
hey, well, we taxpayers paid $90,000 last year.
You paid 40-something thousand for an ambulance, but you're paying about $40,000 for the service. The ambulance goes
Right. You're ignoring capital planning.
No, we're trying very hard to do capital planning right now. I don't know about the past, but right now we're actually saving and working towards a capital plan for a new ambulance that would hopefully not require this type of borrowing the next time a capital item is needed. That's the goal that we're working towards.
Lois, have you received that information? Have you received the capital planning information?
What you're talking about in terms of the next ambulance?
Yeah, just he's put in for it, and we've sent that out, yeah. But what I think, Jack, is, so the town of Northfield is putting in 40-some-odd thousand. This will be the 3rd year that he's asked for it. And so then he's able to put some aside for capital planning. Well, we're subsidizing it then, aren't we?
We put away $90,000 last year.
Counting the ambulance payment.
Ambulance payments before that. That's a cost. You can't just say, oh, that's just the ambulance. That should have been part of capital planning for years. And it's a cost that's going to have to be accounted for going forward, in addition to the cost for the expanded service. Now, if having a South County model is going to result in an extra fee to the taxpayers of $100,000, that's what we're paying now.
The other thing too is they're also missing the point. The EMS director is asking for looking to replace the secondary backup ambulance in 2027. But he's also missing the fact that then when they bought the primary ambulance 4 years ago, that its replacement was going to be scheduled in 10 years in 2026. So we're looking potentially at 2 ambulances at what, $350,000 an ambulance. And the other thing too is, why not approach Bernardston and say, you pay the subsidy instead of us paying the $39,000 to $40,000 a year, especially since we're doing 110 runs to their community in this past year, to let them pay for it. Not a token fee, but let them step up to the plate and pay for coverage of their community. The other issue here is that it's just, the problem I also have is when we go to another community to provide 110 ambulance runs, that means that ambulance, the primary ambulance, is not available to the residents of our community who pay for it. And I kind of get the feeling is, if I have to ask for a backup secondary ambulance to respond to my residents, and the primary is not in town, I'm going to have to wait, because you're going to have bring staffing in, because the staffing at the station has gone out with the primary ambulance. That means I, as a resident of Northfield, will have to wait longer for a response and to assist me. And to me, I'm paying taxes for that ambulance. I believe we should have primary and the best service for this community. And now we're talking of going into another community of West Irving. What's next? Gill. And the thing is, we don't have to do a South County model, but we can do something that's similar up at Peterborough, New Hampshire, where they assess costs to neighboring communities that make use of their ambulance. And that would be a fair way of assessing and assisting Northfield in paying for this service.
I did mention the 2 options for models, and one, as Jack mentioned, is South County. It's Whately, Deerfield, and Sunderland. And I also mentioned the Peterborough one because I had talked with the director up there. And their model is that they provide the service to some of the smaller surrounding towns up there. And there's a formula, just like there's a formula for South County, for formula for their payment to Peterborough for that service that they provide. But Mark doesn't seem to be interested in any other model. He wants to keep the one he got. Now, I did look up in the town reports as to when we voted to have the EMS service, and the way the article read was to serve the people of Northfield. How much you have to adhere to that vote, I don't know. But it was to serve the people of Northfield and provide ambulance. Now, you have to remember one thing is that Bernardston Fire Department are all trained as first responders. So when a call goes out, I think this is the way it works, that they, over there, they respond. And of course, you call for an ambulance at the same time. They may get there and find that there's no transport required because whatever it is, they can take care of. Didn't you get that impression, Andrea?
They don't always call for an ambulance at the same time. It depends on the call. If it's just a first response, like for example, a car accident, they may just, Bernardston responds to their own. Then they would call an ambulance if they needed it.
Okay.
So we do not do first response for the town of Bernardston.
No.
It's only ambulance.
Yeah, it's okay.
But they are the first response here in Northfield because you do not have first responders other than your ambulance department that I'm aware of. Which means that if the ambulance department can't be self-sufficient and was to go out, you will have to do something about first response.
Yeah, I think the police.
By law, you have to provide it.
Police go to every call, and their is just basic training, I think.
But they are not first responders. They're not trained first responders. There's a whole.
No, that's incorrect, Andrea. They are first responders. It is required for police officers to have the training. But under current COVID emergency, police departments, at their choice, have decided either to respond or not to respond for their own safety of their officers concerning response to an EMS call. But they are trained and certified as first responders.
Right, but you understand that when you talk about the difference is when a first responder pulls out a truck like the fire station first responder, they roll with a vehicle that has medical and is there to be a first response. A police officer is just basic EMT at a site.
No, not basic EMT, first responder. That is their level of training, and they're also supposed to be equipped to a certain level of training to carry first aid, oxygen, and various other equipment. And trust me, I was a retired police officer. We were first responders. It was trained. We had to be CPR certified. We also had to be, first aid and certain level of training. We were required. It's required by the state. So because now of the emergency of COVID, that might be a limitation right now. But again, this is what they are trained for. And that in the first responders in Bernardston, that's their choice to have the fire department to be their primary first responders. Previously, the police department was here responding. But again, COVID has changed that temporarily, potentially, or that'll be up to the chief and this town to decide. But they are first responders.
I don't know how much equipment our cruisers carry. Do you, Andrea? Have you?
Very, very basic, like he said. They would probably have some oxygen. They would have first aid.
There's a difference. First responders, and then there's basic EMT, and that goes up to paramedic level.
Yeah.
But all police and fire are required in Massachusetts to be certified as first responders.
And we do not have that in our fire department, never have. We have to.
But it's a requirement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jack, you had something else to say?
Well, I had a question. The language that established the enterprise fund, does that allow for Northfield to go out and expand service to other communities and subsidize those communities? Have you looked at the town meeting article that established the enterprise fund?
I haven't. I don't know. Have you, Andrea?
I have not.
All right, so we're spinning this forward as we look ahead to the NFL draft next season. As it stands right now,
Somebody's got news on.
Number 12 pick in the
Who's somebody talking?
2021 NFL draft.
Yeah,
Look at the college football playoff.
The radio or television.
That is me.
A lot of animosity here. I don't want to
Smash it.
sorry about that.
Okay, I'll take that.
No, the thing is, Andrea, I would just wish that you would communicate with the select board our concerns of the finance committee to them concerning the future of the ambulance and the cost to the community. And the other thing is, I have serious reservations of us expanding service beyond the communities that we serve already. I mean, where is this going? Where is the benefit to the town of Northfield? And what kind of quality of service does that provide to our residents? Again, if the ambulance is out of town, we only have one ambulance, the manned.
They're both paramedic level ambulances.
Yes, I'm not saying I'm not the issue of paramedic. I'm questioning is manning and response time. If somebody has a cardiac situation here in Northfield and they have to wait half hour, 45 minutes for a second ambulance to respond, or do we have an agreement that we have AMR or somebody to respond if that ambulance is unavailable? I'm just saying.
Well, we haven't had that situation for whatever reason, we're just not that in demand. And I think those are fair questions to ask Mark, and I'm hoping the select board he needs to discuss that with them.
That's select board and Mark have to realize we have very serious reservations here. And again, if we're going to extend coverage to other communities, the other communities must not make token payments. They must assist us in covering the cost of providing that service. That's, to me, is what, And Bernardston is not paying a dime. The town, I'm talking the town and its government, not the residents. They are not paying a dime, while we shoulder the burden in Northfield for this service. We subsidize this service. And again, I just think that, again, we need to really look at this situation, study it, and not leap before we have some serious answers financially, and also for the better coverage of our residents here in our town. I really think that select board needs to seriously think about this before they move anything forward on, especially going to West Irving.
I would like to see something resolved and not just have it come up at town meeting floor like it did last year. There were legitimate questions, true, but the motion was to table it. I think something like that would have meant absolutely no budget, no payment for the rent of the property, no payment for the ambulance, and that was pretty scary. So before it gets to that point this year, I'd like to see something, something come up that we can be supportive of, so that we don't. That was pretty scary, wasn't it, last year at the town meeting last spring when we had that? And Mark was apparently on vacation, but was where he could hear it. And he called you, I think, Andrea, right during the meeting about it, because it would mean if they voted it that way, that ended the service right there. So I have a concern about, with all due respects to Mark and all the training he's had and all the volunteer time he's given, apparently, do we really want to vest this all in one leader of this type of thing? Because if you go to either of the other models, you've got other coverage, other people backup and that sort of thing. And it seems now that we've got the chief of the EMS. Well, it's different than it's chief of the fire department or police chief. It's different. And I think, we need to be thinking of that and the future. What if something happened? Then what? Now, there is an assistant, but it almost seems like every year there's a different assistant that's come to talk about the budget as well. And now, Mark told us, well, we all know, I believe, that Mark works for the Orange Fire Department, who handles the EMS service for Orange in whatever their area covers. They have been covering the Irving. And I think so that's how he knows about the need that they probably want to give off this part that's farthest from the center of Orange. And
actually, the AMR has been covering this part of Irving.
I'm sorry?
Actually, AMR was covering this particular part of Irving.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Orange wasn't coming out this way. So you've probably seen in the paper something about questioning the AMR service. I don't know who's right and who's wrong, but there are these other models that could be looked into, but I don't know. Anybody else, Dan or Sue, any comments?
I think we've beaten this to a dead horse here, but we all know that we're not happy with what's going on, and Andrea is going to look into it along with the select board as far as doing that. And once they get their act together, come and meet us as far as doing it. They put everything on the table.
Mark is scheduled to come before us on February 1st to discuss his budget. I had dates available, so I thought while he was right there, he said that is a date that's acceptable. Now, and it also, Andrea will not be with us that date, and made that clear to him too, but he agreed to come to see us on the 1st of February. So
I will not be there either.
You won't be?
I will be under the knife.
That's when you're going.
Under anesthesia is a better way to put it.
Okay.
I have one question.
Getting my bionic limb.
I have just one question to ask Andrea. The current MOU at Bernardston, does it expire June 30th of this year?
No, it allows you to terminate it. It's not.
But when is the expiration date of the MOU?
I have
Because
to
it
pull
can't
it,
be indefinite.
I have to pull it out again.
Okay.
It's a renewing, but it's not indefinite. But I'll
Yeah.
have to- I had it, where was my inbox folder? I had it printed out. Too many folders on my table. But it's something I think that the select board should address anyway, regardless.
Yeah, I'm just
Look
curious
at the
to
one for
see.
tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see when is the expiration date of the MOU.
I can pull that. Plan a final agreement. But I think it expires technically every year. It's just you have to renew it every year.
So that would be June 30th.
I mean, essentially, it's a year to year, and each year you renew it or not.
Now, was it in the paper or something? The contract expired, well, contract went into effect, they said, on July 1st, 19, but I think we were providing service starting January 1st of 19 over there, and then they got this.
So 2 years. So it was July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, and then renew for 2 years. So 2022, June 30th, 2022.
Another year
It would have to be further extended by written agreement of the parties. But it can automatically renew, well, I think his 2022 would be the extent where you would renew.
So
Okay.
Select board didn't take any action, so that renewed it then, this batch.
At the end of June 30th, 20. So yes, it would renew till 2022.
Okay. Jack, did you want to say something?
I think this has not been thought out enough. What's been presented to me does not demonstrate anything that I could ever support this. And I really think if you were at town meeting last year, this almost did not pass. And for you to pursue this, Andrea, you're putting the EMS in a perilous position.
I'm not per se pursuing it. He's asked to come to the select board. I've asked him to start to do some write-ups. I mean, that's if he's going to pursue it, I wanted him to do some informational gathering. Now, talking about a funding plan and model, that's incumbent on him. And that's what we've been trying to work on. We can look again at those other models. The problem with them is they become very expensive to all the towns, but you have to determine what level of service, and that's what I'm trying to get. I go back to the plan to say, look, what is it that you want for the level of service? What is he building funding toward? And then they have to, you, finance, select board, have to make that determination. Because you build a funding model around a plan. If it's to continue the kind of service you have now, which is 24/7, 365 days a year, then he needs to build a funding model around that. If we're going to change it, and then we can get into looking at other funding models, but I'm not sure you're going to want to pay it to hire people to staff at that level. So he needs to figure out a funding model. The funding model he has come up with, you're not happy with. So that's what he needs.
There is no funding. There is no funding model. You're completely ignoring capital expenditures. There is no funding model. If you're a business, you have to plan for capital expenditures. There's been absolutely none of that at all. And correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you have those numbers. I don't know. I certainly have not seen them.
Well, we weren't I mean, we certainly have not been presented with funding two ambulances back to back. That was not his intention. I mean, Lois was there. We talked about when the next ambulance would be funded, and it was not 26 and 27 by any means.
Well,
So
never.
if he wants to present that, then I will ask him to present that, but that was not what was presented.
Even if it's 5 years apart, it's still gonna be $70,000 every year as a capital expenditure for that one item. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you bond it over 5 years, 350,000, 70,000 a year. And none of that is being accounted for, except Northfield taxpayers paying for it.
Then the other thing is, when we purchased the new ambulance in 2016, it was to service the community. Now that it's going to be doing so many additional mileage and runs to other communities, that means that ambulance probably won't be anticipated even to last as long as it was, because originally it was only to service this community. Now it goes to Bernardston almost on an equal basis. Then it's going to potentially go to West Irving. That doesn't make any sense. It means we're going to have to pay, like I said, to replace the backup ambulance and this new one, because it's just common sense. It's going to wear out quicker because it's being used far more often. So again, I don't see where he's getting his figures or his model. And the other thing too is we should have never agreed to do Bernardston without them having to pay a penny, the community, to help us run this ambulance. And the potential token payment they were looking at is ridiculously small. That doesn't even cover the reasonable cost of an ambulance. So to me, I don't see, if we approach Bernardston and say, listen, we're going to say, you're going to have to pay your fair share. And if they choose not to, so be it. Then they can go back to AMR or whatever private ambulance service or start up their own ambulance. But I just don't see us subsidizing, and we are subsidizing, the service to Bernardston and potentially now to West Irving.
I haven't had a chance to look through all of the figures there, but one of the things that you guys talked about that I haven't actually looked at, there were the number of calls to Bernardston and Northfield were exactly the same or pretty close. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Pretty close. So if we're paying 100% of the ambulance, shouldn't it be 50%, 50%?
Yes, that would be a reasonable figure to ask.
That would be, I mean, you can break it down real easy that way. If the same number of runs are going to Bernardston or going to Northfield, then they are required to pay half the bill, I would say, right? Again, we've been beating this for quite a while right now. We talk about it every single year as far as doing that. Everybody knows it's high on our agenda to have some kind of concrete information so that we can feel good about what's going on. We don't have that yet. We need that as far as doing that. Let's let him come into the select board, get them this spiel as far as doing that, get as much information as we possibly can, and then make a decision as what we will support, because that's all we can do.
Sounds good, Dan.
Couple of things that, Jack, I think you were maybe on the board. It was 250,000, and he was told at that time that would have to last 10 years, and that was serving Northfield. In 10 years' time, and Bernie brought up it may not last 10 years, okay, but one way or the other, I think in a certain length of time, maybe 300,000 for replacement would be in line rather than 250. I don't know if it'd be up that much or not. The other thing I just want to comment on is that payment that somebody alluded to about Bernardston. Last year at their town meeting, they voted $10,000. And as far as I know, there's no agreement as to where it's going. I mean, there's still, am I right, Andrea, that's still in Bernardston, the 10,000 has not come to Northfield.
They've been billed.
They want it put in some fund just for replacement of ambulance, because I saw part of the Bernardston Select Board meeting when they discussed it, that I called it, they don't trust us to use it for that. They said, well, we could use it for other things maybe that the EMS needed or whatever, not replace the EMS. And I guess there's no agreement yet on what happens with that money. Am I right, Andrea?
They've been billed and the intent was to put it in the ambulance account,
Okay.
as an ambulance account.
Excuse me, Andrea, you said they've been billed, so you say the select board approved the side agreement to the MOU that the Bernardston would, by them paying $10,000, that would be their only payment to the community for the ambulance service?
We have not signed an additional agreement.
But you said you billed them for $10,000. Good. Well,
Not signed a change saying that we would agree to anything else. They've voted 10,000 because that's what they said they were going to vote last year, so we have billed them for it.
so we've billed them and they pay it, so then basically that's an acceptance of that's what they're gonna pay us.
For this year, because that's what that discussion, I don't know about next year. No one's had that discussion yet with the ambulance or EMS
they're
or
only-
with their finance committee.
So they're paying only $10,000 and we have to subsidize it for 39 for fiscal 22?
No
Over
one's discussed a budget for next year.
Okay.
Not with them or with
I'll tell you
anybody.
this, if I was Bernardston, I would be loving this because they're getting the best deal ever. They are really getting a great deal. And they're ponying up not enough money to cover this service. That's the last I'm gonna say of this. This is just aggravating to hear this because I'll tell you, I find it unacceptable. I really do. I find it unacceptable. And I would hope the select board finds it, has the similar questions that ask the same questions that we do. Because financially, this is not a good deal for the town, and it's not a good deal for also care for the residents of this town. So I hope the residents understand our point of view on this. This needs to change. That's it.
Okay, I think Dan said it, that we'll see what they do tomorrow night, and then we'll see him and talk about his budget on February 1st, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. Did anybody else I don't think the public safety complex people, have they met?
Yeah, we had a meeting, Lois. We had a meeting that took place on December 2nd. The chief things were, we were looking for bids for the emergency repairs to the concrete and structural work to the current fire station. We did get some interest from a couple of communities. One local contractor came in with the lowest bid at $25,200, and Andrea was going to move forward on securing a contract to have the work done. I don't know where that has proceeded up since that date. The other issue was the property we've been looking at on Main Street on Route 63. There was a need to flag that property for potential wetlands so we could see how much available square footage would be in that area for a potential public emergency services building. Looking that we need at a minimum 60,000 square feet, which equals out to about 1.5 acres. So as far as I know, I have not yet known if that property has been flagged. We found out there was neighboring property that's being flagged, and we were looking to see if potentially, I spoke with Andrea about having the company do the flagging, because the longer it takes to, to that job to be done, the more delay it is to us to move forward on potentially looking at this property for a new emergency services building. Again, that's basically it. We don't have a future date for a meeting. The key thing is to see if this property meets the standards or the requirements for a emergency services building.
Okay, do you have anything to add, Andrea?
It's my understanding that the property has been walked and flagged. We're just waiting for a report on that. I'm going to email Skip and say what's the progress on that. I'd like to meet in the next few weeks to discuss that report. So we've been told that they've actually been there to the site. So I'm just checking with him as whether or not he's received that report. If he has, I think that it's appropriate that the committee meet then to discuss that particular site. I do not know, did not give me the contact information for the concrete bid, but I have emailed him to get that information if we need a contract, or whether we can just go on the agreement. I haven't seen it. As soon as I have it in hand, I assume he may have even moved on it.
Yeah, I wondered if he had just gone ahead and
He might have, but I don't know the answer to that yet. But the flag, from my understanding, the wetlands people have actually been on the site. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm talking about the concrete repair,
Yes.
and apparently it's awarded to a local contractor. I wonder if he's made any arrangement with Skip to just go in and do it. We don't know. You haven't done any contract yet, so I think
No, but I mean, it's possible that the work is done on a scope of work, so it's pretty clear what it is.
Yes.
You know, it's fine that we get a contract on that, but I don't have the bid sheets on it.
Yeah.
So
I'm not going to mention name, but it's very reliable, so I don't worry about, the follow through when he gets whatever they need. And I would think this would be a good time to be doing inside work like that. But whatever. Okay. Any other, Tony, and I don't know what the CPA, whether they've met or not. He continues to ask when you get these balances and so forth, he wants to see the balances in the CPA money. And I don't know whether he was looking for what the state might have paid the town. And we know we wouldn't get the full reimbursement. So I don't know, has anything been said to you, Andrea, about how much is in the CPA fund?
yeah, they did a lot of work on that. I think he has the accounts.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I saw a lot of work go by on that and a lot of balancing between what's in each, because they vote every year to put a certain amount in each separate, yes. I saw a lot of work go by on that, so.
Okay, good.
And then closing out projects that didn't get done, projects that are done, but the final amount. So they were I definitely saw spreadsheets on that.
Okay, good. The other thing I wanted to mention that I had a phone call from the chair of the Conservation Commission, and it's regarding his budget, and I've talked to Andrea about this. He wants to put the secretary's salary back into his budget. And this is something that came out last year because Andrea had the idea, and it worked, I believe, of hiring one person to cover the various committees that didn't have a secretary. We have one, Board of Health has one, but I think this person was covering all the other committees, wasn't she?
She does the community preservation, she does planning board, was trying to do Concom to the best of my recollection.
Yeah.
And has definitely done a tremendous amount of work on our filing project and cleaning up the land use room when there weren't committee meetings happening. Her first job is to do committee meetings and take minutes, but the idea being is that project would then take place, and we've done a tremendous amount of work in there when there hasn't been committee meetings. So, I guess he'll have to speak to you.
I thought we'd see when he comes in. Last year, we didn't get a budget request there's two committees that he has budgets for, and one of them we didn't. I thought
I have the Agricultural Commission budget already as well. I do not have the Conservation Commission budget.
It was Concom that we didn't, and that's where you haven't got it, then, okay.
I don't think so.
We'll have him in and talk about it and see. I thought it was a good idea to have one secretary to
It's
do a job.
working okay for a few other boards. I think he wants an assistant, and we've been unable to fill that position for a number of years. So our idea was to start with somebody at least to assist them with minutes and that piece, and that maybe once that person attends meetings, learns the system, does enough work, that maybe there's some assistance that she could then render, but she has been unable to unable to provide that service to the board.
One allegation he had was that, well, when she was not available for their meeting, he was told that he could have a recorder to use. So, and then somebody else was using the recorder. So Andrea said the answer to that is get a second recorder, let them have it, if that's what it takes to do the minutes. So, okay, that's just something that we're going to come later on.
Yeah, I don't have the Conservation Commission yet.
Okay, that's the one that we want to see what he does about it. I didn't say yes or no that he could put it, well, we just have to talk about it.
I just said to put it in his budget and you guys would discuss it with him.
Okay, good, thank you. I'm just looking quickly, and we're not talking about your capital tonight, but have you given any thought to possibly buying any baffles to go in the auditorium of the town hall? It gets used some for meetings, and the acoustics are terrible.
Right, and we did buy a few panels when we started the project. Things have gotten a little sidelined. We don't know how effective they are, but then again, there's a big space, so we really do need to consider if we're going to do that.
You start hanging something from the ceiling to deaden the sound.
Really, the ceiling that's a problem. We'd have to get some kind of system set up in there to bring the ceiling sound down. A lot of it bounces around in the ceiling.
Yeah.
So we've had discussions on it, Dan and I, in the past, because we know how loud it gets even during elections. You can tell that there's
so high. So, all right.
Yeah.
Anything else that anybody wants to bring up at this time? Next Monday is a holiday, so the following Monday, and I can't tell you the ones that will be in, except because when Andrea gives me the budgets, then I can set the schedule.
I'm going to send you a whole bunch. I'm putting them together right now, making them all in the same format, and I'm pretty much going to send you just about everything I have. There's only a few departments that aren't, and it's usually because they have a meeting, like the assessors need to meet, the open space committee needs to meet. There's a few that want to review budgets at their meetings, but in general, I have a pretty good bulk of them, so you should be getting, just sort of finishing up the town hall one. I have to do a lot of estimating, but I was waiting to get insurance numbers, retirement numbers, hoping to get the veterans one today. I didn't get it yet, but because that's a big chunk of the budget. That's the big administrative one. But I will send you the others tomorrow, and hopefully that one, as I'm going through it right now. Is that
how do you want to handle hours? I've got it physically here.
I'll type it in for you.
Okay.
You're all set. I have the spreadsheet, so I'll just type in.
Okay.
And it'll be fine, and I'll just save it in here and include it in the package.
All right, very good, thank you. Anybody have anything else, and somebody make a motion that we adjourn?
Just one thing as far as doing that, in February, definitely won't be, there for the 1st. Are you gonna be there the 8th? Are we going like every Monday now for a while? And again, if we're doing this, I should be able to do it. I don't have to move too far, so.
I'm not sure. Let me look at my calendar.
28 and 22.
The one that I'm actually not, I was planning, just looking at my calendar, to be there for actually.
I want to have her give a lot of information over right now.
The February 1st meeting, I was planning on. The one I'm not going to be attending is January 25th, which is your next meeting.
Okay, yeah.
That's the one that I will be out for. Sorry, but it's my 30th wedding anniversary. And we sort of have plans.
Sure.
But the 1st, if you're meeting that night, I was planning on being there. The 8th, I would be, after that, I'm here. It's really that one night in particular that's problematic for me.
The 25th will be, and nothing's scheduled yet, but she said she's going to send me the budget, so I can.
Yes, I'll send you a whole bunch. You will be getting a big chunk of budgets.
And we'll do more than just one. Tonight was getting started on it and these other things. February 1st is February 8th is going to be the textbook. superintendent, business manager will be coming, and I've got February 22nd scheduled, so I hope that we can get them all done by that time. Does that your answer your question, Dan?
Yes, the first is the only one I'm positive I won't be there. The 8th, I should be able to make it as far as doing that if we're doing it this way, but I'll let you know after the 1st.
Okay, you won't be there for the first.
Won't be there for the 1st, definitely.
Good. I hope everything.
Unless for some reason they start, this is an elective surgery. If they decided they aren't going to do this
Yes.
type of elective surgery, then I'll definitely be there.
Yes, okay. It's Springfield where you have it done, right?
Yep.
Okay. All goes well then. All right, a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I second that motion. Sorry, Jack.
Okay. So Jack motion to adjourn. All right.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay. Good evening, gentlemen, ladies.